Invading Greece looks easy for about 5 seconds. Then the terrain shows up. Then the wind joins the conversation. Then the islands start watching you. And by the time you finish your briefing, half of NATO has already put coffee on and is asking what time they should arrive. This is not hype. This is geography, history, and a military doctrine designed to make bad ideas expensive. The short version is simple. Greece isn't defended like a normal country. It's defended like a problem set that never has one correct answer, and that's exactly why no one sane wants to solve it the hard way. Let's get straight to it. The first reason Greece is nearly impossible to invade is the land itself. Roughly 80% of the country is mountainous, according to European Environment Agency terrain data, and those mountains are not friendly. They don't form neat lines you can bypass. They fracture, twist, and funnel movement into narrow passes that defenders have been using since before Rome learned how to pave roads. Armies don't maneuver freely here. They argue with gravity and lose. The mountain chains running down the mainland don't just shape Greece, they weaponize it. Roads cling to cliffs, valleys compress into choke points, rivers cut across approaches at exactly the wrong angles. Any mechanized force trying to move fast discovers that speed is theoretical and fuel consumption is not. The famous Vale of Tempe between Mount Olympus and Mount Ossa has been fought over for more than 2,000 years for one reason. It turns mass into weakness. A handful of defenders can hold up formations that look terrifying on PowerPoint slides and deeply uncomfortable in real life. Modern surveillance only makes this worse for an attacker. Thermal optics don't care about camouflage when vehicles are forced onto predictable routes. Drones love mountains because they funnel movement. Artillery loves mountains because it doesn't need to guess where you're going. Greece doesn't need to outnumber an invader on land. It only needs to slow them down, and history shows that slowing people down in Greece tends to end conversations. The second reason is the sea, and this is where the situation goes from difficult to hostile. The Aegean isn't an open body of water, it's a maze. Thousands of islands, hundreds of them inhabited, create overlapping lines of sight, radar coverage, missile engagement zones, and ambush points. Any naval force entering that space isn't operating in blue water, it's operating inside a layered trap. This is why the Hellenic Navy is built the way it is. Fast attack craft armed with modern anti-ship missiles don't need to win fleet battles. They need to appear, strike, and vanish behind geography that already hates you. Submarines operating in the Aegean don't need deep water or long patrol routes. They need patience. Air-independent propulsion boats can sit quietly in exactly the places convoys have to pass, and NATO naval analysts have been blunt about this. In confined seas, submarines multiply in effectiveness while surface fleets lose room to breathe. And then there's the weather, which deserves its own seat at the planning table. The Meltemi winds aren't folklore. They're seasonal, predictable, and brutal. They ground helicopters, scatter landing schedules, and turn amphibious operations into slapstick routines where timing stops meaning what you want it to mean. Nature, in this part of the world, has no respect for invasion timelines. Greece has learned to work with it. Attackers have to fight it. And this is where planners usually start lying to themselves. Because once you accept that the sea is hostile and the land is unforgiving, you still have to answer a harder question. How do you sustain momentum in a battle space that never lets you concentrate force without being seen? The Aegean doesn't reward mass. It punishes it. Every additional ship, every extra landing craft, every reinforcement wave doesn't just add combat power. It adds signature, heat, noise, predictability. Greek island defense doctrine is built around this reality. The islands aren't isolated outposts waiting to be rescued. They're nodes in a network. Sensors, radars, missile batteries, infantry units, and naval assets are positioned so that no single island needs to defeat an invasion alone. It only needs to delay, disrupt, and report. Once that happens, the problem multiplies outward. An attacker doesn't face one beachhead. They face a cascading reaction across nearby islands, air bases, and naval patrol zones. Helicopter routes overlap missile envelopes. Amphibious approaches intersect artillery range fans. What looks like a local landing becomes a regional crisis in minutes. According to NATO doctrine publications on littoral warfare, this is exactly the environment where defenders gain asymmetric advantage. Greece didn't stumble into this setup. It built it deliberately. Even special operations don't solve this problem. Islands compress human terrain as much as physical terrain. Communities are tight, maritime traffic is familiar, and anything unusual stands out immediately. You cannot hide movement in a place where fishermen recognize boats by engine sound and villages notice strangers before they notice weather changes. Intelligence collection becomes a two-way street, and the defender owns most of the street. Then there's the psychological effect. Operating in confined waters under constant observation wears crews down fast. Naval officers hate uncertainty more than danger, and the Aegean offers uncertainty in industrial quantities. Every headland could hide a missile team. Every sonar contact could be nothing or everything. Every delay compounds stress. Fatigue becomes a force multiplier for the defender, and history shows that tired navies make mistakes. By the time an attacker begins thinking about escalation to break the stalemate, they've already lost the initiative. Because escalation in this region doesn't just increase pressure on Greece, it widens the conflict space, activates alliance mechanisms, and introduces players whose interests extend far beyond the original objective. What started as a calculated risk becomes an uncontrollable cascade. Only after all of this do you reach the third reason Greece is a nightmare to invade, and that reason is air power. This isn't nostalgia or bravado, it's math. According to NATO force assessments and publicly released modernization plans, Greece operates one of the most advanced air combat fleets in Europe relative to size. The combination of upgraded multi-role fighters, long-range air-to-air missiles, and layered air defenses turns the sky into something you have to earn minute by minute. This matters because air superiority is usually assumed, not negotiated. In Greece, it's negotiated violently. Fighter bases are dispersed, hardened shelters are standard. Radar coverage is layered across mainland and islands, and air defense systems are positioned to make every altitude uncomfortable. Patriot batteries cover high approaches, medium systems handle the rest, man-portable systems fill the gaps. Pilots train in one of the most contested airspaces in the alliance, and NATO exercises consistently rank Greek squadrons among the most experienced in intercept and scramble scenarios. There's a running joke among alliance pilots that Greece doesn't train for air defense exercises. It lives inside one. When your pilots intercept real aircraft probing airspace every week for decades, reaction time stops being a drill and becomes muscle memory. That matters far more than raw aircraft numbers, and NATO training evaluations have said as much in plain language. The fourth reason is logistics, the part invasion movies always skip because it's boring and ruins the fantasy. Greece makes logistics miserable. Ports are limited, watched, and defended. Airfields are known, hardened, and covered by layered defenses. Roads between them are narrow, predictable, and vulnerable to interdiction. Islands cannot be bypassed without exposing supply lines. Every ton of fuel, every pallet of ammunition, every replacement vehicle has to move through an environment designed to notice it and interrupt it. Meanwhile, the defender doesn't need miracles. It needs one successful interdiction at the wrong time, one ship delayed, one convoy rerouted, one airfield temporarily unusable. According to modern military logistics studies published by NATO's own defense colleges, attackers lose momentum faster than defenders lose capacity, especially when operating close to the defender's home infrastructure. And Greece doesn't stand alone while this happens. This is the fifth and most underappreciated reason invading Greece is a terrible idea. Alliances turn local problems into strategic disasters. Greece is not a fringe NATO member, it is a frontline one. Key facilities, including deep-water ports and air bases, are already integrated into Allied planning as outlined in the updated Mutual Defense Cooperation Agreements with the United States and reinforced by bilateral defense treaties with France. This means any serious conflict doesn't stay bilateral. It escalates sideways. Reinforcements don't have to invent access, they already have it. According to official NATO mobility planning documents, Greece functions as a logistics hub for southeastern Europe, the Balkans, and the eastern Mediterranean. Trying to isolate it is like trying to dam a river that already has 10 spillways. There's also the human factor, which never shows up in spreadsheets and always shows up in wars. Greece maintains conscription and a large reserve structure. That means trained manpower tied to local terrain, local infrastructure, and local knowledge. It means island garrisons that aren't symbolic. It means units that don't need orientation because they grew up there. Military sociologists have pointed out that this kind of territorial defense model dramatically raises the cost of occupation even when initial resistance is overcome. History backs this up with uncomfortable consistency. Invaders don't fail in Greece because they lack courage or equipment. They fail because time turns against them. In 1941, German forces eventually broke through Greek defenses, but not on schedule, not cheaply, and not without learning lessons that shaped their future planning. The airborne assault on Crete succeeded tactically and failed strategically, costing Germany so many elite paratroopers that Hitler banned large-scale airborne invasions afterward. That's not folklore, that's documented military history. Swap paratroopers for drones, transport aircraft for missile ships, and the principle doesn't change. Greece doesn't prevent conflict by being invincible. It prevents it by making victory so painful that even winning feels like a mistake. And yes, there's humor in this because Greece has always defended itself with a straight face and a raised eyebrow. The goat on the cliff isn't decoration, it's surveillance. The grandmother on the balcony isn't a bystander. She's morale support and intelligence collection rolled into one. The wind that ruins your landing schedule doesn't care about your doctrine. It's been doing this longer than your staff college has existed. So could someone invade Greece? In theory, physics allows many bad ideas. But strategy is about cost, not possibility. And when you add up the mountains, the islands, the airspace, the logistics, the alliances, and a population that has turned stubbornness into a national sport, the equation stops making sense. Greece isn't a soft target disguised as a vacation. It's a defense concept disguised as a country. A place where terrain fights back, the sea refuses cooperation, and help arrives faster than your excuses. If you want beaches, bring sunscreen. If you want a war, bring a calculator and a very good explanation for why you ignored 3,000 years of warnings. Because invading Greece doesn't just mean fighting a military. It means fighting the land, the sea, the sky, and a very long memory.